They are called road racers. Men who race motorcycles on ordinary Irish country roads. Roads that on any other day serve as cars, buses, tractors. Roads that are lined with trees, lampposts, stone walls. Unforgiving obstacles when struck by the human body. Road racers compete against each other and against the road itself. For the racers, it is a passion, an addiction to speed they cannot resist. For some, like brothers Michael and William Dunlop, it is also a job. A way of life passed on to them by a previous generation. By their father Robert and his brother Joey, two of the world's most successful road racers. Two men who risked everything to win. This is the story of two sets of brothers, two generations of one family, united by success, united by loss on the roads. There are few places in the world where men still race on closed public roads. Ireland and the Isle of Man are two of them. They are the home and heart of road racing. And on any given weekend, from April to September, the travelling caravan of riders and fans hitches up and makes its way to the circuit.
That's very much part of our kind of rural heritage. The races happen in the countryside, the roads that we drive on every day. It's very much part of the fabric of our normal everyday lives, that at some point we tie up a few straw bales and put up a couple of speakers and draw a few lines in the road and we're racing.
We go out behind another race, and then we'll go out behind the support on the 6th then and give her a breaker in, fill the front, everything will be grand.
If motorcycle racing was not at all dangerous, I suspect that most of them would not do it. It is the challenge of facing up to danger and overcoming it that attracts them.
And if it's doing something, try and work around it.
Aye, can you change the front a wee bit? She's a bit harsh.
They're getting some sort of enormous spiritual satisfaction out of controlling an enormously powerful bit of machinery on the knife edge between safety and disaster.
It's a fine art, you know. If it goes wrong, you're going to get hurt, or even worse. Looking in from the outside, it looks insane, you know, what are these people doing? But when you're on the bike, you feel in control.
What's your wheelbase at? I nearly flipped it down to that there twice. Like dirty rotten thing. It's worse going up the back road because you have to short shift up the hill.
It's kind of hard because people run you down for it and say, do you not care about yourself and that there, but you know, it's a great life, and you know, just being on the edge the whole time and having, you know, it's just having no worries and just doing what you want. And if, you know, if something was to happen, like, it's, you know, I don't care. I suppose that's what it is.
Life itself, you don't take much into it. You just sort of go about thinking about yourself. It's not a nice way, but you can't have a real life outside racing because, you know, if somebody wants to spend time with you, it's all about bikes. You come home, it's bikes, you know what I mean? And you take a lot of things for granted, and probably you are very selfish in it in the way you do it.
You can make road racing safer, but you can never, ever make it safe. Because what the riders call the furniture, the hedges, the curbs, the telegraph poles, the lamp posts, the stone walls, those things cannot be removed. They have to be able to blot all of that out and have consummate belief in their own ability, but also in some kind of luck that'll carry them through, because every aspect of road racing requires luck.
Tire there, tire. The clutch is going to be really, really short down there now. Pull it on.
You can feel the heat of the exhaust, the heat of the engine, the noise, obviously, the smell. Everything is just alive.
We watch the front. Get her off the line, you don't need her.
If you think about what it's like to watch it, what the hell must it not be like to be sitting on the thing?
He was to become a multiple world champion. But back in the 1970s, road racing started out as some fun for Joey Dunlop, uncle of William and Michael Dunlop. Some excitement to share with his brother Jim, brother-in-law Mervyn Robinson, and close friend Frank Kennedy. They gathered in the northern Irish village of Armoy. Young men who spent every spare minute squeezing all the power they could find from their temperamental two-stroke machines, and who competed at the weekend. Not for money, not for trophies, for the thrill of racing.
Setting up two-stroke machinery was extremely, extremely delicate to get them going the quickest, and there was nobody better than the Dunlops at doing that. They would have converted their bikes in such a way that they were missiles.
Over time, these young men developed their skills, and Mervyn Robinson and Joey Dunlop emerged as highly talented riders. The racing became serious.
Looks like it's coming over again. But looks like it'll come in like. Soaking. Soaking. Well, we're living the dream. It's wet, like, but it's going to dry up.
Is it worth a gamble, like?
Yeah.
Get that trolley over here. Bring it with you.
There's bypasses in one click to give it a wee bit more stability, just.
By the late 1970s, Joey Dunlop had become one of Ireland's leading road racers. But the harsh realities of the sport were about to hit home. At the 1979 Northwest 200, a major race near his village that attracts over 100,000 spectators every year, a high-speed crash cost Frank Kennedy his life. 2 other riders died that same day, and the tragedies kept coming. At the following year's Northwest 200, Mervyn Robinson was killed. Joey had lost his closest friend. His little sister had lost her husband. For the first time, he began to question his future in the sport.
I've thought a lot about it. That's why I'm going to stay back home for a wee while. See how things goes. I just don't know yet what to do. Difficult question. I'm just undecided yet. I don't know just.
To lose your brother-in-law, Mervyn Robinson, and another dear friend in Frank Kennedy who lost his life. You know, they were part of growing up for Joey. They were gutted, but they kept going.
Two weeks after Mervyn's death, Joey was racing again. At the Isle of Man TT, the most famous of all road races. A 37-mile circuit through towns, villages, and over a mountain. A circuit that had already claimed 126 lives, but on which Joey was to claim victory.
Did you realise you were on lap record breaking performances for the last 2 laps?
No, I didn't know. If I knew I was, maybe I'd just load up.
For Joey Dunlop, thoughts of retirement were gone.
For Joey, who was the central figure at that time, it was just starting to come together.
I'm going away.
You know, he's packing his case to go to race in England. It was a clear fork in the road, and here was this big opportunity. There's no question that it's part of the thing of facing down the dangers and facing down the real risks that you know can happen. They resort to the last line of defence. It will not happen to me.
In the following years, Joey established himself as one of the world's top road racers. He turned professional, riding for the Japanese Honda team. And he became a world champion 5 times in a row.
Joey was the best at the time, so he just followed the best. I had a Joey Dunlop thing in my house, in my bedroom. I'd cut a J and an O and an E and a Y, and I made Joey Dunlop in a big arch on my wall, bedroom wall, and just stuck pictures of Joey all over the wall.
He was just this ordinary wee man who came from the same place that we came from. To have one of our own then go out and do the things that he did, take on the world and beat them, there was a great pride in that.
He didn't like to boast, and he didn't really like people complimenting him that much. One might almost say it was very factual. Black is black and white is white.
I don't think there's really MD that goes to road races just to make money at the minute. I don't think they would take that chance.
He just didn't like doing interviews, he didn't like doing any press things at all. It just wasn't for him. He just wanted to just ride a bike and just be it.
He got a lovely way about him. You know, everybody in awe of the man, including myself a lot of the time. Totally without an ego. He just grew on you, you know. The love for the fella, it just grew on you.
Say the Northwest 200 wouldn't be the Northwest without the very special motorcycle road racing name of Dunlop, and you must be very proud to continue that family tradition today.
Yeah, I know. It's nice to get the one. I say big thanks to all the team. All right, thank you. All right. Look, we'll try something else. It'll be a bit of crack and see how we get on. William, you're in, son?
Aye, super. Oh, the light's lovely.
While Joey Dunlop was becoming an international road racing star, nowhere was his influence greater than back home. Robert, the youngest boy in the Dunlop family, had decided to take his first tentative steps in the sport. A young man inspired by his big brother.
He was sitting on a pile of coal in Joey's shed in Armoy. You had to climb over the coal to get to the workshop. And Robert was sitting on the coal watching Joey prepare this motorbike. He was making it for, I think, Robert to ride. And he said that Robert was going to be a top-class racer one day.
Have you had many tips from the big brother?
Oh, plenty.
I think Robert just loved the whole publicity part of it. He loved the limelight and he's outgoing, so he really liked to talk. So Robert was a lot different from Joey in that he really enjoyed all of that.
Robert was a young Jack the lad, raced bikes for fun, never thought he would be a professional, got a great buzz, was generally dependent on hand-me-downs from big brother Joey.
I was very busy, yes. We broke a screen with flying tyres. Flying tyres broke the screen.
When he was being interviewed, he would have come across as being maybe too cocky for his own good, but it was a front. You know, really, whenever behind the scenes, as soon as that microphone disappeared, Robert was a person who did lack self-belief, you know.
Robert decided, well, you know, I can't live not so much in the shadow, but I have to be my own man. And he tidied the act up and was able to talk. Very, very good PR man. And he learnt that the best way forward for him was to act in a responsible, professional manner. So it's kind of really a slow process of grooming Robert into something different to Joey.
Got to well look the part, you know, as well as do the part when I'm on the bike. So it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot different now. It's not as funny anymore. Not as good a should I say crack.
So here comes the winner, Robert Dunlop. Over the line, takes the checkered flag.
Despite the pressures of racing, Robert enjoyed great success. He became a professional, equally at home in road races like the TT and on short circuits in England, where he became a British champion.
Hang on, stick to the motorbike racing, boys.
He was a racer in his prime.
I'm a realistic type of fella. I'll not be racing all my life. I intend to race for about another 5 or 6 years, and hopefully by that time this place will be up and running, and that'll be like a family business, you know, and something for my sons then maybe, whenever I get old and grey.
You're getting a big boy for Dad to left.
For a road racer, success and tragedy are separated by the narrowest of margins. Danger is ever present. Death, just a split second away. For Robert Dunlop, learning how to accept this truth became part of his life.
At the beginning of a road race, I would think more about God. Whereas at short circuit racing, I wouldn't be as conscious about the fact that, you know, something could happen to you very serious, you know. Whereas in road circuits, I do, and I get more nervous and more itchy, you know.
As a man confronting his fears, Robert faced his biggest challenge at the Isle of Man TT. 2 weeks every summer that are the high point of a road racer's season. But as Robert knew, this was the most dangerous circuit of all.
I remember him standing on the grid one day and I actually saw Robert's knees shaking. And I remember saying to him that night, "You were a bit uptight this morning, you know," and I says, "Does this place get to you as much as it gets to me?" And he said to me, "Aye, it does."
In May 1994, Robert returned to the Isle of Man TT, as he did every year. Again, he was one of the favourites to win. But as he set off in his first race of the week, everything was about to change.
Word came through. Robert was reported missing. And then it came over the loudspeaker. Would Liam Beckett report to Mrs. Arms at the incidents office at the TT. And I knew bare face. And she took me in and she says, "Liam, he's off." And it's serious. They took me up on my own to Dr. Stephen's room, to what they call a trauma room. And he just says to me, "Liam, we have a very, very serious Robert. Seriously ill Robert." And he says the next 48 hours is touch and go. Robert was lying on his leathers and they have the oxygen on him, and I've never seen as much blood in my life around the floor. And it was thick, thick blood. It always reminded me of mercury. It was like mercury. He was just conscious and no more, and I remember him saying up to me, "The wheel come off, LB. The wheel come off." And I thought, Christ almighty. It's common knowledge now the rear wheel had broke up. It was a defective rear wheel, and that's what had caused it. It flew apart rather than come off. And he had crashed down into a very thick stone wall. And the right-hand side was all mangled. His arm and his leg. And he said we started to work on his arm, and we very quickly had to switch attention to his leg, which started to turn black and looked like amputation. And he said, "We may get him up and walking again if he pulls through this, but he will never race a motorbike again."
looked a bit slick there, but then from there, the road was actually wet. Like 3/4 of an hour ago, the road was soaking wet from there to the extent.
Travelling at speeds approaching 200 miles per hour, a racer's trust in his machine must be absolute, unbreakable. For Robert Dunlop, that trust had been cruelly betrayed when he crashed the 1994 TT. He had escaped with his life, but only just. It seemed that his days as a road racer had come to a premature end.
It was definitely career-threatening. The leg, it was horrible. It was all mangled, and he had a big cage on it with screws and things, and that was on for a long, long time. But the arm was where the real problem was, because it was complete nerve damage, and Robert had a dropped wrist completely. There was no movement in it whatsoever. So Robert could neither walk nor pick anything up. And because they were completely severed, the chances of those nerves regrowing were nil. No, they'd been completely destroyed.
What was going to happen? I mean, his injuries were horrendous. His business was motorcycle racing, and it, with the accident and everything else, that was all knocked on the head. It was basically his earning power was destroyed in an instant.
While Robert began the slow process of healing his body as best he could, his brother Joey continued to race. But he was now in his 40s, an older man in a young man's sport. Wins were harder to come by.
And what a marvellous TT record Joey Dunlop has had over the years, but by his own admission, the last 3 years have been a bit lean. However, third place in this fiercely contested race is no disgrace.
It seemed that now Joey was driven by a need to race, rather than a need to win. But talk of his retirement was never far away.
When Joey does actually quit, that you'll not see the crowds at the TT, because they actually go from all over the world to see him racing. And I think it'll not be the same without him.
Away from racing, other interests were taking root for Joey. Moved by images of war in Bosnia and conditions in Romanian orphanages, between each racing season, he filled his van with food and set off on a 4,000-mile round trip across Europe, always eating and sleeping in his van, and always traveling alone.
If there was ever a point when I think back that we were feeling down, it was the period before Joey Dunlop arrived. And when we opened that van and I saw, little boxes, every box had a message. Everyone could benefit from what was in that. So that van was, that was a gold mine. And it wasn't an easy place to visit. Probably one of the most difficult places, certainly if you're a father or anyone that's in touch with children, to see children like that. That whole field of humanitarian work brings different people. And I think, people do it for different reasons. And I think he was one of the most genuine.
Despite his growing interests outside the sport, despite his age, Joey still sought the excitement of racing, wherever he could. But in 1996, a crash in the Eastern European country of Latvia left him with a dislocated shoulder, and yet again, questions about his future.
When things like this happen, do you ever think that maybe that's it?
I thought about it. I thought about it a lot, but once it comes, and once you get better, you always change.
Easy, Tiger.
The will to overcome his injuries, to return to road racing, was relentless for Robert Dunlop. Just 2 years after the crash that almost ended his life, he was ready to return to racing and had his sights set on competing at the Isle of Man TT once again.
Can you be as good again?
Well, I think so. And a lot of other people think so as well. So.
But the injuries he had sustained were lasting. He rode a modified bike, but the front brake switched from his right to his left hand. And he raced only lightweight 125cc machines. No longer had he the strength to handle a more powerful motorcycle.
Whenever you take all the injuries Robert had and how he ever came back and how he ever wanted to come back after that, I don't know. I've thought about it long and hard many a time, and I didn't ask him why, but he just couldn't do without it.
But Robert's return was not without controversy. At the Northwest 200, an event he had dominated many times, he was deemed unfit to race, a danger to himself and other riders.
I knew Robert, and this evening I called with him, and his dinner was ready. He was eating with the fork in his hand, and then he went to cut a bit of meat, and he swapped them over, and he was cutting the meat with the left hand, and then he swapped back to left, and I was looking at, and I thought, here, hold on a minute, this guy in 3 weeks' time is going to be taken off in the Northwest along with 30 other guys, and he can't even cut a bit of meat with his right hand. So I said nothing. I went home and I had to think about it. And one morning I wakened up about 6:30 in the morning. I said, Robert's not riding.
But Robert was determined that his injuries would not curtail his career. 2 years later, in 1998, his ban was finally overturned, and he was back at the Northwest 200.
Look at that, Robert Dunlop for the third row. He is absolutely on a mission this weekend.
But within minutes, Robert was confronted, once again, by the cruel reality of road racing. Robert suffered a broken collarbone and concussion. Only a metal pin inserted after his crash in 1994 prevented his leg from breaking. But despite his injuries, old and new, 2 weeks later, Robert was back at the Isle of Man TT and back on the winner's podium.
One of the times that I really had to swallow, and I think I struggled, was when he came back and won a TT. And Dr. Stevens had said to me, he will never race a motorbike again, Liam. And I'm thinking, not only is he won, he's won back in the Isle of Man, where he was nearly killed. and he's back to prove a lot of people wrong.
I mean, it's brought me back from the brink of despair, really, you know, at times. It's been a bridge over troubled water for me.
No one I've ever met in racing, I've ever come across, was as tough, as hard as Robert Dunlop. You know, he went up onto the stage, the prize given. He just turned around and fired a crutch out into the crowd. Didn't need it anymore.
Down brains are see if you're good up into like before you get. So you're on that slick tyre, aren't you? Yeah, so when we did the Mallory, we ran that slick.
While Joey and Robert were still competing, often against each other. By the late 90s, it seemed their careers were drawing to a close. Joey was in his late 40s and had been racing for almost 30 years. Robert was 8 years younger, though seriously impaired by his many injuries. But in May 2000, they returned to the Isle of Man TT once again, as fellow competitors and as brothers working together.
Joey was going to have one good go at the TT, and it was back to fitness, although a bit older. Robert maintained that he would go with Joey, and there would be just him and Joey, and Joey was going to race.
I'm not sure if Robert offered his service or if my dad asked him, but they came together anyway, and Robert done what he done best, besides racing, was turn into manager for a couple of months.
And they're ready for Joey Dunlop in the pits. There's brother Robert.
I hadn't seen Robert in that sort of role before. Almost a managerial role at times, I felt. And yeah, he was looking out for his brother, wanted him to have the best possible chance of winning that race.
It's been 10 years since he had won a big bike race at the TT. Nobody gave him a snowball's chance in hell.
Joey Dunlop, still the race leader, still producing another incredible performance.
That day, you knew that you were witnessing something really, really, really special.
John McGuinness here, chasing Joey Dunlop, who's done 18 minutes and 39 seconds.
I was a TT winner the year before in '99, and I sat off 10 seconds behind Joey, and I was going to beat him.
In my own head, I was going to beat him. That's it, you know. I'm the champ. I'm the man. This little old fella, he's having it. I never saw which way he went.
Everything just seemed to be so relaxed, and you could tell instantly that it was a swan song as much as it was going to be the final year.
They've been clapping him all the way down the mountain. They're on their feet in the grandstands at the start-finish line here at the TT headquarters as Joey Dunlop wins.
Whenever he came in from that race, I don't think I've ever seen him as happy in all my life. It was just so happy. Whenever I come in and say it, I'd never seen him as happy. He wanted that one race, and he got it.
That week, Joey won 2 more races on the Isle of Man. And after his final victory, he was joined on the podium once more by the rider who finished 3rd, his brother, Robert.
You'd have just thought it was meant to be, because Robert was very much a part of it that year and made sure everything was just perfect, and people had them many a time as arch enemies and things like that there, but that never was the way of it at all. The two of them was very close, and if they'd have needed anything from each other, it wasn't a problem.
Joey Dunlop was 48 years old. It was 23 years since he had won his first TT, 30 years since he had started racing with his friends on Irish country roads. But in the twilight of his career, he had added to his record as the most successful TT rider of all time.
Cheers, boy. I ran down the pack a bit and I just kept, trying to plug away and then just tucked the front a wee bit too much, but nothing serious. It was a stupid error on my half. It was only my half only. That's the way it goes, but we'll make amends. Right, lads, let's go. Once you get up the steps. Getting up the stairs now, Michael Dunlop.
Joey Dunlop's victories at the Isle of Man in June 2000 were a cause for special celebration. Back home, he was hailed as the returning hero. But yet again, tragedy was to intervene. As Joey partied alongside Robert, he received the news that his close friend and sponsor, Andy McMenemy, had taken his own life.
Oh, cut him in two. Andy was a larger-than-life character, absolute gentleman, bit of a comedian, centre of any party, and he was loyal as can be to my dad. We never mentioned it in front of my dad. We never mentioned any of his old friends in front of him. Something just that was never ever brought up. Just whatever way my dad wanted to deal with it, that's what it was.
To escape, to retreat from the highs and lows of the previous weeks, Joey did what he had done many times before. He went racing. he set off on his own to compete in a minor race in Estonia in Eastern Europe.
That was way clear in his head. Joey just wanted to get away, and away he went in the van, like drove to Tallinn. Amazing.
You know, he enjoyed driving, gave me a little history lesson of Estonia. Joining with the locals. Yeah, he loved it there. Quite demanding in places. It's 4 kilometres long, tree-lined virtually all the way round, apart from the seafront section, and heavily wooded. He did a sighting lap and then decided to change the front wheel. I think, yes, he nodded to me as he seemed fine with that. And it suddenly started to rain. Flag went down, off he went. Beginning of that second lap, it really was quite a downpour. So the conditions of that last corner changed dramatically. And sadly, when he came upon that corner, it was just waterlogged. I went up to the start and finish area. The clerk of the course there was standing there. And I said, "Can you give me news of Mr. Dunlop?" And I said, "Oh," he said, "he's had an accident." And I said, "You may go, you may walk," he said. So I started to walk towards the last corner. I could see people in the distance. As I approached where Joey was, the crowd started to open up. And there he was. He was lying there. I sort of walked to him and give him a cuddle, but no, he'd gone.
It is really hard to understand, but he just made a mistake. The tree that he hit was right beside the road. And you just looked at it, all those years, all those 31 seasons of racing, all, not just all the races that were won, all those practice sessions, all those unofficial practice sessions, all those times of throwing your leg over that bike, going out there and doing it. Over and over and over again, thousands upon thousands of times, one split second. When we went to Estonia on the first anniversary, we went to a hotel, a lovely hotel which overlooked the beach at Tallinn. And there was a Joey Dunlop suite in the hotel, big sign on it. And that was there for him to stay in. The last night that he spent on Earth, he slept across the front seats of the van. Sorry. I've always found that really, really symbolic and really hard to take in a way, but so completely fitting about everything that had went on down the years. You know, there was this plush hotel suite that was ignored. Things were just done in that kind of old-fashioned way. So much was achieved, 5 world titles and all those things, but Joey the man never changed.
In even the most dangerous of motorsports, where the possibility of tragedy is always close and often likely, the death of Joey Dunlop still came as a shock. Back in Ireland, the impact was searing and profound.
The worst phone call of my life, really. Simple as that.
None of us could believe it, because you never, by that stage, you would have thought, oh, Robert's still taking chances, you worry about him, but Joey's at this stage in his career that he doesn't care if he wins or not, so you know he's not going to take a chance. And I don't think he took a chance in that day either. I think it was set out for him, and I don't know why.
I think it threw a whole lot of people whenever Joey was killed, because they didn't think that it would ever happen to Joey. It was an awful thing, and hint to tell your man that. Haunt you all your life.
I knew whenever I went to Anne and down the kitchen and saw Helen and Linda, they were all there, and I knew to look at their face. I think it never really hits you. Everything's past and you start then to sit down to think. And I would say it probably hit the rest of them the same. After Joey was killed, you know, that sort of put it into your mind. Anybody could be killed. But I say, I never ever dreamt that anything would ever happen to Joey.
Just wasn't to then that we realised how much people thought of him. We just left it open for people, for fans to pay their respect, for I think that's something special, you know, in a racer's life. And we just couldn't believe how many people had took the time, you know, so it was very nice.
While many thousands around him mourned the death of a sportsman they loved, Robert struggled with this intense personal loss.
That's all it's hard to talk about burying your brother.
He broke down completely and cried the like I've never seen him cry. And he was completely and totally distraught. Joey was Robert's idol, and Robert was Joey's biggest fan. And that time that happened, I just reckoned there and then there's absolutely no way Robert will race again.
There was a lot of feelings on there for Robert to deal with, too, as a brother and a fella competitor. You know, we probably had a lot going on, you know, thinking about it, and then probably wondering what he would do, and, you know, it was hard for him too, like, because at the end of the day, like, he was racing with him and then he had to go without him. Just it's in their blood. He was a motorbike rider.
Despite the loss of his brother, despite the speculation about his own career, 6 weeks after Joey's death, Robert was racing again. And as he continued to compete over the following months and years, it became clear that he had made up his own mind about Joey, about racing on the roads, about his own future.
I didn't feel that sorry for Joey. I felt sad, you know, but I was more saddened for my mother and father, you know, and Joey's wife and kids than Joe himself. Because I think Joey and I looked at it from the same point of view, that you're better killed with a motorbike than, you know, lying for 6 months, you know, not well and dying at the end of it.
He nailed his colours to the mast in every way, because he suffered great loss. You know, he lost his brother, he lost many good friends, but he raced on. And surely the ultimate question, the ultimate challenge to anyone, if it involves something of risk or danger or threat, is, would you allow your children to do it?
By 2004, 2 of Robert's 3 children, William and Michael, had become road racers. But thoughts that he might retire, might make way for this new generation, were not shared by Robert himself.
Want to be first. Don't want to be second or third.
There's only one place.
Yeah.
That's first. Second's the first loser.
It was his way of getting away, I suppose, from, you know, life, you know, in general, you know, going doing his own thing, you know. And I think if he didn't do it, you know, what would he be doing, you know, moping about? So, you know, I say when you go down this route of racing, it's all you have. You have nothing else to go back to. It's not as if you can go and be a solicitor or whatever, you know, you've got no skills, it's just racing and racing only.
He wasn't content, like a lot of dads would be, to follow the children. He had to be one of them. He couldn't have retired. He couldn't have thought of the family first. Oh, loved his family, don't get me wrong, but he couldn't have thought in that context of, well, I'll do it for the family. Because he was still enjoying the dream, wasn't it? You know, his dream.
While Robert had continued to race, by the start of the 2008 season, he was 47 years old. It seemed that finally his sons' careers were taking priority over his own.
It was the weirdest year, sort of like with my dad, because he just seemed to have no interest. There was something different about him. It was like a weird feeling. You know, he was more interested in sort of myself and Michael at that time, and it was getting to the stage where I was more interested in him and saying, you need to go get yourself a bike. Because the Northwest was coming up, and for some reason when that came up, he was different. He was always under pressure. Like it was as if it was the be all and end all. You know, that season seemed to be different to any other at the start. Like it was weird. Like
I think my best chances in the 125 class, for sure, riding the 250 as well. But I think my son William will probably win that race. I think he's got the bike, he's capable of it. Michael's got a good bike too, but I don't think it's as good as William. So I mean, he'll be in the fray. But so I hope there's a Dunlop winner on Saturday, and I'm pretty confident there will be.
On that night, we sort of came out of the pits and you come under the tunnel and go onto the road, and it's always a bit argy-bargy, you know, people want to get to the front, get a clear run and whatever, and it was a bloody cold night, and it's coming back to me now. Yeah, we sort of come onto the grid, and
We'd heard Robert was riding a 250 and I was a bit concerned, to be honest. I didn't... Obviously, there was injuries to his hand. I thought, oh, 250, yeah, he's on a 250. You know, I sort of word got around the paddock and like Robert just sort of turned around and gave me a wink and smile, and that was my last, you know, my last smile with him, if you like.
I was a row behind William, and my dad was in the same row as William, and they were sitting ready to go, and I remember sitting warming my bike up, and I remember watching my dad and William's bike go. The smoke come out of it wasn't blue smoke, or it was white smoke. It was like a dirty reek off, and Williams was the same. That's not right, you know, just that's something not right there, you know.
I was just taking it easy, getting heat into the tyres and heat into the bike, and Dad just passed us like I was stopped down the street. The thing was absolutely flying, but I'd seen smoke coming out of it. I tried to catch him, but I couldn't, because it was unbelievable how quick the bike was, and I knew there something wasn't right, you know.
The engine of Robert's motorcycle had seized, and the back wheel had locked up. Robert had been thrown from his machine at a speed of 150 miles per hour.
I could see up in front of me, I could see a debris, I could see people running, and I remember just saying, please, hope it's not. I got down and sat beside him. I remember just holding his hand, and I remember just the doctor got on the scene, and I just prayed he'd be all right.
You know, one of my friends came over and said, you know, you'll be all right. And just when he said that there, it was just like this feeling. I says, no, it's not. For some reason, I don't know what it was weird. And, you know, it was only like about a minute later then that, you know, I got the bad news.
I got to the hospital and, you know, there was just this mass of people and, you know, came through the back door and they just said, look, I'm sorry, we did everything we could, but we lost him. I'm thinking, no, that's not possible. No.
We all went into the car and went down. We met Michael. I wasn't that very far behind Michael, but they came out and they caught Michael, and Michael had a bottle of water in his hand, and he just threw it. And I knew then.
The medical staff had worked tirelessly, and I could see signs where they had been working on him. And I held his hand where the knuckles were skinned, and he was still warm as you or I. And I kept expecting him to open one eye and wink at me, as he had did sometimes before. But this time, he didn't make it. And I suppose a part of me died that day as well.
You know, it was a racing crash, and it had the tragic consequences that a lot of racing crashes have, and it's that thing that you're always, if only it was some other way, if only I hadn't ridden the 250, but it had the same outcome. The very same outcome as Joey's. There was a crash. When you crash in a road race, it's a lottery, whether you crash at 40 or 140. When you crash in a road race, there's a lottery whether you'll ever get up again. And neither of them get up again.
The day after his crash, Robert's body was back at the family home, just a few miles from the circuit where he had been killed. The circuit where racing was to continue the following morning, with or without William and Michael Dunlop.
Michael had no intention of racing, absolutely none. But on the Friday, the main concern was William. He had went into this shell, retired to the garage, and was working at his bikes. I think when his mum inquired, "What are you doing?" "Getting ready to race on Saturday." He wasn't very forthcoming, young William. I think I put an arm around him in the garage and gave him a bit of a squeeze, and I headed back in, and I thought, no, he won't, you know, it's his way of dealing with this. He wants to keep on working at his bike. He doesn't want to be in the house.
On the Friday, it was just about getting out of the garage and being busy. I didn't want to come in the house, and people, you know, there's people about you didn't really want to be speaking to, and not that you didn't like them, it's just that you just wanted to be on your own. And as I went out to the garage, and you know, I was left alone, and just a couple of people were out with his guns in hand, and that was the way I went down with it.
There's a fella that helped the boys out with their bikes. He says, "What do you think of that?" And I says, "What?" And I looked over at the workshop where they worked at the bikes, and the wee van was sitting, wee Ballymena Radiators van that William drove, was sitting backed up to the door. He says, William's working away there on the bike. He says he's racing tomorrow. And I just, you know, just the whole thing, you just knew. I knew it was going to happen. It was a Dunlop thing to do.
The next morning, William and Michael left the family home and made their way to the circuit. Just 2 days after the death of their father, the day before his funeral, they had decided to race. But it was a decision that did not satisfy the event organisers.
They went and had a meeting, you see, so I went to the meeting, and the meeting, there was 3 people said no, and 2 people said he's okay to race. They were saying I wasn't mentally fit to race, or whatever it was. So, and as I say, like, just as soon as I left there, that's just when it sort of hot. It's like, usually you turn to your dad and he would sort it, but there's nothing I could do. Like, it was just like you were being bullied.
My fear was that, you know, their dad was killed. It's their whole mind, right? Because my big worry was that they would go out and something would happen, you know. And that was it. And I had talked to the 2 of them, but they were adamant they were going to race.
As the crowd observed a minute's silence in memory of Robert Dunlop, William returned to his team, determined to take his motorcycle onto the grid and pay his own personal and public tribute to his father.
William come down to the line, he's 250, warming it up. And it was just pandemonium. William was racing, Michael ran off the grid and away through into the paddock, and he came out with the bike and the leathers on and came out in the bike. They were banned.
With both William and Michael having forced their way onto the grid, and only minutes until the start of the race, they had placed the organisers in an impossible situation.
I remember just sitting on the line and surrounded with people. And the girl they had with them, she was holding the umbrella, and I sat in beside the bike and I got her to hold the umbrella. I'm between me so the cameras and the crew couldn't get at me. And I sat there till the race was ready to go.
You know, looking back on it now as well, like, probably shouldn't have done it, like, but at the same time, it was sort of like all I knew.
The stewards were saying, well, okay, listen, we need to do something here, you know. And I says, listen, folks, there ain't anything you can do now. The boys are on the grid. You know, there's no way in this wide world that you can take Michael and William Dunlop off the grid.
If they were seen to take us off the grid, it would have been a shambles. The day would have been a shambles. The people would have went bananas.
But for William Dunlop, it was not to be. His desire to pay tribute to his father on the racetrack had come to nothing, thanks to the fickleness of a machine. The responsibility to do so now lay solely with his brother Michael. Just 4 days earlier, Robert had expressed his hope of a Dunlop victory in this race. In his youngest son, that hope was still alive.
I remember running quickly and jumping into the car and driving like mad to the northwest. But on Northwest Day, if you're not down early, you have an absolute nightmare of getting anywhere near the circuit. I remember having to abandon my car somewhere in Port Stewart and run. But as I was running, I could hear the commentary. The race had started.
This is superb. This is what the Northwest 200 is all about. Look at Dunlop now on the inside. I thought McGuinness might be going for Elkin. And it's fantastic. Elkin, Dunlop, McGuinness. That's the top three. Oh, here he comes back on the inside. Is it? Maybe. Dunlop's looking. Look at that back. Oh, on the brakes. And this will be very confidently comes through here. Oh, fantastic start by Michael Dunlop. So Michael Dunlop in the lead.
All the time you're thinking, how's this kid doing it? You know, I was only 19 or something at the time.
The inside, is it Michael Dunlop? No, he's going to be content. Oh, the brakes, and as he overshot it, will McGuinness.
A little bit inside of me maybe thought he was going to win this race at all costs, you know.
The outside is near Christian Elkin. Dunlop, look at this all the way round. Oh, Elkin just swipes across him again, but that was fantastic, and Michael Dunlop means business.
He was going to ride through whoever was going to be in his way to that checkered flag. Everybody was on that bike with Michael that day. Thousands of people were sat on that motorbike with Michael, urging him to win.
Michael's leading the race and the crowd's going mad. And I gets to an area where there's no access, and I remember the people, which were 6 deep, right down that hole, they actually physically threw me over the fence to get me over the fence onto the circuit. And suddenly, as I get to the start and finish area, Michael takes the checkered flag.
Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. There are going to be tears tears of joy, and look at Michael Dunlop, and that is the result that everybody wanted. And Michael Dunlop, a last-minute decision to be on the grid perhaps, and fully justified as well. What must be going through that young man's mind?
There is no motorsport event has any parallel whatsoever in terms of the sheer emotion of what was achieved that day, what was done in the name of road racing that day.
For Michael and William Dunlop, like so many others before them, the pain of loss was relieved by the ecstasy of victory. If only for a moment. It is in the nature of road racing, where tragedy is inevitable. But there is always the possibility, the hope of euphoria.
That stamped the Dunlop name and authority back on the world of racing, that win. You know, it went from being a boy into a man, I think, in half an hour.
Yeah, it was selfish, very selfish. But it was only a way that probably could find that could cope, could deal with it. I was so happy that I'd done it, but then I couldn't really celebrate it, so I just wanted to get home.
What a fitting tribute to their dad. You know, he would have been proud of that. He was extremely proud of the boys, and he would have been, that would have really put a smile on his face, you know. And obviously the race was over then for him. He didn't stay even for the rest of the meeting. Mervyn kindly got them home. I think they'd proved their point. And then it was back, obviously, to mourn the loss of their father.
The following day, the Dunlop family gathered to bury one of their own, yet again. Road racing had lost another of its stars, but the Dunlops had lost another brother, another husband, another father, another son.
Big thing that'll probably haunt me for the rest of my days is, you know, my granny. Seeing it, looking in that woman's eyes. Never forget that, you know. I never felt for somebody as much in my life, you know.
Since Joey got killed, I finished your life. There were always something that wasn't there. But then whenever Robert got killed, you merely had no life after that. So I wouldn't like to think ever William and Meg ever get killed. But I suppose they'll not stop anyway, so. But as I say, like, earlier on days were good, but then you just lost your life. And never, ever, ever would be the same again.
I don't think any bad of what had happened and everything. I think, you know, like, it's a great career he's had, and, you know, other people look at it and think it's sad, but, you know, you're very proud of what he's done. Like, it's like, you know, everybody talks, you know, the good old days and stuff, you know, knowing that he was part of it, you know. And then that's to say, when we were racing, and the kind of sort of respect you get just for being Robert's son and that there, it's, you know, you just know that you're part of something great, you know.